welcome to Women and Women, a podcast dedicated to amplifying female voices. I'm joined here today again, well, for the first time, by Julia, which I would let you introduce herself. So, Julia, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Emma, and lovely to be here as well. So often I'm a host on the Off Record on Point podcast, so it's lovely to be switch the tables and be asked the questions. I'm Julia Linehan. I'm founder and CEO of The Digital Voice, which is a B2B ad tech PR agency.
Fantastic. I'm really excited. I've known you for a while now, and I'm really excited we finally get to do this. And I always kick off by asking the same question, and I always kind of qualify that this is the same question, but it's my favorite. So I will continue to do it. And asking, what is the advantage? What's the power of being a woman in this industry, in your role?
I was thinking about this, and I'm going to come at this a slightly different way. Firstly, I would love there not to necessarily be an advantage, because we've always fought for there just to be a level playing field. If it's all about equality, I don't want there to be an advantage of women over men. I have a son and a daughter, so I hope they have the same advantages, actually. However, I do think there are some advantages just by the very nature of who we are as women. For example, we can do 100 things at once. Let's not put that in the corner. That's a really big advantage for many women, of being able to do multiple things and multitask. I think as well, women are brilliant at oversharing. I know I have a lot of women at the Digital Voice, and we're very proud to be oversharers. And that means we're able to communicate really freely. And that always helps build trust, build empathy, get to know people. There's nothing that's not on the table. And I think when you talk and you share, that's where the magic happens, of being able to solve problems, support, cheerlead, all of those things. I think as well, I think it's one that I'm really proud of, that there's an advantage for women now, being able to see other women in leadership positions. That's something that we can't underestimate in terms of the power it's having, of there being, you can see all these strong female leaders, and that's going to be an advantage for the next generation of women coming through. And the final one I probably think would be community, because I think women are really good at being part of communities. I wish that men would do more, because I think that they could benefit massively. There are some brilliant men and women communities, like the ad tech community out there, but I love that. I love how women lean into communities, and I think that's going to be a big advantage for them.
You know that there is research that shows that community is one of the reasons women live longer.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, there is research when they showed in a small island where men had the same level of community that women normally have, they lived as long. So something about community and longevity.
Yeah, I think isn't it case that, the loneliness is one of the biggest factors to your health, actually. And I feel this. I thrive off being around people and with people and talking and sharing, and all of those, both physical and emotional and verbal communication. It's massively important.
And even just to let you know, like to give you some insights, like there's the ability to just tell someone or share that and taking it off your chest, or just like release yourself from that burden. You're letting that all of that information kind of eat you alive. Say, like in our house, I guess that we do share a lot. Zayn does like to have a conversation. So I guess like small, very tiny community, but maybe that's what partnership is. Yeah.
I mean, we've got, because we're 100% remote at the Digital Voice.
Yeah.
We rely heavily on being able to show how you can build a community remotely. And we have Slack on one channel, we have Trello on another, we have Hangouts and Zoom and stuff on this screen. But Slack, when you use it well, it's really lovely. We've got loads of different channels that are outside of our client partners and the work side. It's like there's a reading club, there's Culture Fix, we have TDV Life, where the Digital Voice Life, where people share their photos that they've had from the night before or the weekend. Lots of other different smaller groups as well, and it's about really sharing community. Like today, we've got the Digital Voice has got an Eid celebration lunch, so we all just join together and we'll dress up in modest but beautiful, colourful clothing, because three of our team are Muslim and celebrating Eid at the moment. And I think that's really important. We did pancake day, flipping contests, and all of those. Anything you can do that means you're feeling part of something, whatever
Mhm.
that is, part of just it, and a connection on whatever is of interest to you.
I
Love that.
I think that's like, sorry for that. I was taking in Aurora. Aurora is now part of the podcast. Yes,
And a very welcome guest.
exactly. It was expected. She follows her mummy everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, that's all right, Wolfie. I know. It's morning. It's early for you. She's not an early riser. But like, I think that's a big part. I think when my next question was naturally, I think we kind of led
Mm.
naturally, segued naturally into my next question of asking how have you contributed to building supportive community within the industry or within your organization. And I think that's really where I saw one of your strengths is building those communities. And I
Yeah,
would
thank you.
love to kind
Oh,
of dig further into that.
yeah, thank you for that. That's lovely. And I am really proud of two parts. So we'll cover the industry. So I'm one of the co-founders of Digital Leading Ladies. And part of the reason we set it up was when you're in a leadership role, you can't always ask the board and advisors stupid questions or questions that you might think you should know. And you can't necessarily share and impart and ask your team. So we were creating something. Can we go sideways? And can you have like-minded people that are also in leadership that are going through the same stuff? Can you have a group that is able to share, support, cheerlead, help each other? And it was about do, love, learn. That's what Digital Leading Ladies is. So it's been going for years and it's a really thriving 500 plus community. It's on WhatsApp with 2 lunches each year, one in Cannes, one in London. But I love seeing there's loads of community groups that have been set up within it as well. DLL jobs, DLL health, DLL neuro. There's one set up recently for grief. So there's lots of little splinter fringe groups specific to whatever you want to talk about. And the support and the cheerleading that happens within that is fantastic. So that's one part. And I would say as well on the community within my own organisation, I'm coming up to next year will be 30 years working in digital advertising. So I've seen it all and I've seen how companies can be well run. I can see how they haven't been well run. And when I set up the Digital Voice 12 years ago, I really wanted it to be a community based team that people loved what they do and they loved where they work. And every day it's about trying to make it as enjoyable and fun and uplifting. We only work with client partners that we like and that are really lovely to work with. That's one of it's some top priority for me. And I love the team to all have the same passions and strengths, like morning people, high energy, no stress, no drama, wanting to give their all. And in return, I'll wrap my hands around them and I make sure they're well looked after. And I have a motive of life work balance in that order. So our whole culture and well-being is about lifting them up. And one of those aspects is we implemented a 4.5 day week so that Friday afternoons is theirs. It's theirs to recharge, reset, go and live your life and enjoy it. And that has made productivity better. It's made the whole, how the strengths of the team, it's had such a huge impact. And also on a Friday, we don't do any client partner calls on a Friday. The Friday mornings is dedicated to boost your power hour, team training, collaboration, strategy, planning. All of that happens in the morning together as a team. And then at 1 o'clock, I kick them out virtually and we all have time to recharge. So it's little things, little steps you can make, but with a one thing at the heart of whether it's community in the industry or community in your organization. Give a shit, really care and put your people first, because your team and your peers and the industry and people is what's going to power whatever you do.
That's one sounds beautiful, and not just beautiful. I think it's powerful. First, I'm excited to join Digital Ladies. I'm excited to maybe join like the luncheon in Cannes. I haven't had a chance the last couple of years. Hopefully this year I'll have a chance.
I hope
Um,
you do. It's really good fun. I think
I
it's in its
can
5th year
imagine
and it's
to be
amazing.
part of the community. I think just having someone to talk to and sometimes ask
Yeah.
questions that you can't ask anyone else.
Yeah.
I was
That's
literally just thinking about it yesterday. Like, can someone, who do I ask this? Um, and it was like, I need help. I don't know who to ask. And sometimes you're just stuck and it's like, okay, chat GPT,
yeah.
help me think it. Like, I will ask you, um, because you're here.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, like, we've got we use a well-being app called Shura, and they've got a virtual chat function called Shuru. It's like my new best friend. And in the morning, you can go on and say whether you feel tired, content, stressed, happy, but you can ask it anything, and it is brilliant. It's really realistic. So that's great, especially when no one else is awake at 5 a.m. But now I know that you're maybe up, Emma. I can message you. But what I love is that DLL and other communities like the Women in Programmatic Network, WAC or Bloom, I really feel these are safe spaces, that there is no stupid question. Someone will know the answer and someone will have been through it. That's the power of it, that you're not alone.
Hmm. And I think that's just infinitely powerful. And I think that's when you see where women do have a strength, and kind of like you said it earlier,
Mm.
community is a female strength. And I think that maybe it's also connecting to the fact that we still sometimes feel like underrepresented communities, and women do come up. When you look at underrepresented communities,
Yeah.
women is one of the top ones, which is bizarre. Again, we're not a minority, but we still feel like one. And that power of, we need that community in order to give us strength and security and a whole range of things, which I think is just a wonderful tool. Um, and also, I think that when you say, "Oh, the team," like you're looking for people who don't have stress and drama, I think that you're also making their life. You're creating an environment where they don't need to have stress,
You
or
don't need to.
yeah, you're reducing that stress level because you can create stress in people. Like,
100%. 100%. I think it's that. It's like when there's what we always try and do is like there's things like when there is a problem and there is something that's wrong, it's having the bravery to as a manager or leaders to say that didn't work, that wasn't right, that wasn't that wasn't great behavior. Let's deal with it. It's like a 1 minute reprimand, they could call it. You have 1 minute praise, 1 minute reprimand. Deal with it. Just deal with it. Talk, share, list. And for the person receiving negative feedback, it's about understanding, I hear what you're saying and I'm going to take it on board because it's
mhm,
coming from a place that I know you're coming from a good place, that you're not just saying it to make me feel bad. This was something that I can take on board. You know, criticism is there and failure is there to help us learn, revise, test, try again. If something is hard, do it again and again and again. And I'm always saying that to the team. Don't worry if things didn't work out, if it didn't play out. We are human, mistakes will happen, but you do have to take ownership for it. You do have to try and solve it, and you do have to try and prevent it happening again. But
mhm,
I think it's that communication. You've got to say the good and the bad. I always say that I'm looking out for the good all the time. But when anything negative happens, we just talk and address it, and very calmly as well. So I think how we respond and how we interact with people. I mean, I do not like that. I think the worst managers are those that are inconsistent, that you don't know what mood you're going to get. You could, are you going to get somebody in a good mood today, in a bad mood? If if you get angry, you've actually lost control.
mhm.
That's on you. You've lost your own control and you're reacting in a way that is emotional in a negative way. So I do think managers have a responsibility to try and be as consistent as they can so that teams feel safe. They know they know if there's a negative, it's still talked about calmly. Don't try and sleep on it. Try and breathe, walk out, or leave the situation before you respond in an emotional and
So I
negative way.
think that's what I do, in terms of
Do
like I will not decline on anything. If I ever got, and that's what I said, like always, also to colleagues, if I get an annoying email, do not respond. You need to take an hour.
yeah.
Um, you like if you see like someone said something like you're really frustrated, it's really annoying, you do not respond. You
Yeah.
wait an hour. In general, if I'm mad, I don't respond immediately. If I see something, it does piss me off. That's human. I see it. I'm annoyed. I will walk. I will take
Walk
a day.
away.
I will talk about it the next day.
Take Aurora for a lovely walk or stroke or
Anything like, or even just address it to like really talk, like just remove all the emotion from it, just say a statement. Sometimes I do say, look, I am frustrated. This is the
yeah,
reason why I'm acknowledging that emotion first. This is, I am frustrated by this. We need to address it. This is the situation I am seeing. For me, feedback has always been a responsibility of that goes two ways. When we often say you need to be able to take feedback.
yeah,
What I find really important is that you need to be able to give feedback.
yeah.
I
Good
see,
and bad, and it's
yeah,
hard. It's really hard because you don't want to upset somebody. I mean, I still find it hard. I don't know if you do, Emma, too, but it is one you have to do and you have to learn because you're helping somebody. They're not going to learn if you don't tell them that that wasn't right.
I completely agree. And yes, it was harder for me, but I've seen a tendency to give only bad feedback and the feed like not
Yeah,
from managers in the past. And I've seen like you focus really on the negative. And I said, like, if you only see the bad, like you're not giving someone this is good, this is bad, you should where they should focus. You're only showing them what's bad, and they're not, this is not clear like it's not as clear. If you
yeah.
want to tell them, if you want them to do something better, you need to say, like, this is what good looks like. This is where you're doing
I
good.
love that.
This is what good looks like. This is where you should improve. And also, if you're defining it, this is where how you empower yourself. This is how you grow. This is how the narrative you're telling them and the narrative you also tell yourself. Besides,
Love that.
you're responsible, you own it, like this is your fault. This is your fault is never a good thing. Um, in terms of narrative, but if you think of it like just turn the same feedback into this is how you grow, their ability to receive it, the other person that sits in front of you will feel very different about the same statement. In the end of the day, you as a manager want to win, right? Winning is them doing better.
Definitely. I think as well, people forget that to go in with more questions than answers. So why was that a challenge? What about that situation led you to make that decision? How did you come about that decision and why do you and how and even sort of saying, do you see what do you see as being the problem that it caused? You know, getting a bit under the hood. It allows them to almost come to the same answer that you've come to themselves because at the end of by asking questions back as to why that happened and then saying okay well let's talk about how we can prevent it happening what tools you need in order to move forward and never have that happen or how can I help you how
Mhm.
can we help make sure this doesn't happen? So I love, we have an amazing business coach called Nikki Coe at the Digital Voice, and she is so good at giving us those tools to just ask, query, question, get under the hood, and together we help shape the answers of how to move forward. I love that. I think people don't ask questions now. I think it's like that's happened, that's a bad thing, instead of going, why did it happen? How can we prevent it?
I think that how can we prevent is where I don't like to say to make the same mistake twice, and
No.
it's a big thing that I say a lot. I mean, we can all make mistakes. It's part of learning. Just don't like the same mistake.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I literally will also like tell sometimes like when I get the same response, like you're making me make the same mistake twice. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like this is not something I appreciate. Like I literally will push back when I see this happening. Um, but is the focus of what can we do now moving forward? Yes, you need to debug,
Yeah.
you need to identify the problem, maybe understand the root cause, but then where's your focus? If you're trying to, who was responsible for it, for what purpose? The focus should always be, how do I do better in the future?
Yeah.
And
I love that. Yeah, I think it's really important. I think as managers, you're meant to manage somebody, so that means managing them for the well, good days and bad days. And I think it's really understanding that people didn't. Most people, when they make a mistake, they didn't mean to. They didn't mean to. It wasn't intentional. Something has there's a gap, a missing gap in understanding, in knowledge. I think there's ones, you've got, there's different, but it's knowledge, it could be a knowledge gap, it could be a confidence gap, it could be a competence gap. And it's finding out which one of those it is and then saying, okay, we can solve this. and if they're worth investing in. I do think it's really careful when you're choosing people to work with you and to work on your teams, is really see as much, ask questions in that interview that's going to give you an indicator of how they'd respond in stressful situations, how willing they are to take negative feedback, what's their response to X. You know, the more you ask somebody in an interview, the more you're going to get a sense. I mean, I believe in gut feel a little bit and experience. I'm sure
Yeah,
you do, Emma.
I
But
do.
you know when you know, and you think that person's going to be really a pleasure to work with, easy to, and also that person's going to be able to take criticism or take pressure in a positive way. And our job as leaders is then to ensure the knowledge is there, the confidence is there, and the competence is there.
I completely agree. It's the responsibility in making sure, so like knowing where people's strengths are. I believe in, you don't need to make them fit everything. Like they're never going to
Yeah,
be perfect. There's never, but understanding where they're strong at and directing and leveraging that, leveraging the power. And finally, when we say take negative feedback, is taking responsibility for how we give feedback.
yeah.
Giving someone feedback or being direct is not an opportunity or a license to be a dick. I'll just say that.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what we do. We have this system that's called, you have these columns, and it's pass it, don't do it, love it, own it, improve it. And then you get, there's a lot of things that you're like, say, what you can pass. So you can put in there, I really don't like doing X. So you put it in your pass it. What you don't like, someone else will love. Don't do it is that you're really not excelling on that. Don't do it. You know, these are things, and you're not getting right. It's not working. Don't do that. The love it is, what do you love? Put those in that column. What are you really loving? Then the own it is things that you think that you want to own. You know it's your baby. You want to put things in that list that you're saying, I'm taking full ownership. And the improve it is areas that you're starting to own it, but you know you need more improvement and guidance. And when you put things in those columns, you can see a better picture of where you're sat. I mean, you can add in as well radiators and drains. You know, that's also good. What brings you joy? What fills your tank up with heat? And then what drains your energy? The more you know about each other. And we did this big spreadsheet for the whole team of getting to know the team. And we told everyone to answer all these questions. You know, how do you best respond to criticism? How what way do you like to work? What gives you the ick? All these questions, and we said everyone to answer it in 5 minutes. And then we've kept it as a spreadsheet. So if you're about to do a meeting with somebody, you just double check in the sheet what that person. Some people hate being interrupted in their focus time and dragged into a meeting like without notice, you know, or other people like to prep a little bit more, or people don't like meetings running over a certain time. Whatever it is, you're just able to access it, and you're able to see how they, if you have to give feedback, well, I can check in the sheet and see how that person likes to receive feedback. So getting under the hood of people, hugely important.
I I think I might steal some of it.
I can send you the questions. We just came
Yeah,
up
I
with it,
think I
and we were
might
like, yeah,
steal
I
some
love
of
it.
it.
Yeah,
This sounds really interesting. I think it's kind of a natural tendency, but I don't do it consciously. So I would love to almost give it a framework,
yeah,
solidify it. Because I'll just remember facts. I heavily rely on my memory, and I like it's not something that I can just give someone else. This is the problem with it. I'll just know it's like a database, and I'll just
yeah.
know things, and I'll just remember. You tell me something, I'll observe it, I'll remember it. It's not, I don't do it on purpose. It just happens. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's a great system. It's my system, but not a great system. I think that's a great system.
It's all right. Yeah, I'll send it over, and if anybody else listening wants to see the sheet, it's really, we just found it really good. And then we layered in this a website called Positive Intelligence, and you can do your saboteurs test. And we always do that every 6 months. So what your saboteurs are, the things that make you strong, but the things that will break you as well. And so my saboteurs, for example, what is it? High achiever, restless, controller. They're all real positives, but they're also my saboteurs. So you understanding those, and other people have got, oh God, stickler. There's lots of different ones. It's a really good test to do. So at the top of our getting to know, we also put our 3 top saboteurs. Can we
That's
do that? I'll
fantastic.
send it over.
Yeah, so I'll share it with the episodes.
Yes.
Everyone listening can experiment, experiment, try,
Yeah.
learn about themselves and maybe their team. I think that's important. And kind of not direct segue. I'll kind of like we talked a lot about positives, and it's really important. But what I find that it's also important to share some of the challenges that we faced and how
Yeah.
we overcome it, because the fact is that we all need to feel a little less alone. And if someone else had the same issue, the same problem, managed to get over it, we often feel like I can do it too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it's part of the goal of this podcast is to and help people see how they can do it too and feel less alone.
Yeah, there's an interesting one. I was mentoring somebody yesterday, and they're about to go and have their second baby, and they were talking about, how did you manage it when I had two children very close together.
Mm,
They're 13 months apart, and at the time I was head of digital at the Mirror Group. So excuse me, it was a huge role, and it could not be done 3.5 days a week. But I'd made a commitment that I chose personally to be a mum 3.5 days a week and an industry leader 3.5 days a week. So when I spoke to the Mirror, I said to them that this can't be done. So I stepped down and found a brilliant replacement, Paul Hood, who took over the role. And I then set out to go after roles that were always 3.5 days a week when my children were younger. And that's a big barrier. It's a big challenge. It's one that parents are facing all the time. How do you flex working that fits for you and fits for a company? And I spoke to the mentee yesterday and I said, look, I went in there going, you get all of me, you get my decades of experience for a pro-rated rate. That's number one. Number two, I'll deliver within those days as much as I would over a week. This is an opportunity for you to have someone with vast amount of experience at a lower price point because it's prorated,
mhm.
but I'll come in and give my all. And I've then got that balance that allows me not to try and do all things. And if you're trying to juggle too much, you're gonna drop balls.
Yeah.
And we always say when you're juggling balls, there are glass balls and there's plastic balls. You've got to protect the glass balls. They won't bounce, they will smash. There's lots of other balls that are plastic. So it's okay. If they will bounce, they'll drop them. But as every individual person has to work out what their glass balls are. And for me, it was being a parent and being a leader as well in the business. And I felt like I needed to protect the glass balls I protected them with kit gloves. So I found it, I won't lie, it was a challenge. It is a barrier. If you want to go in and ask for flexi working like that, I still see it every day. I see companies saying they're going to be flexible for parents or for situations. You look whether it's looking after elderly parents or health, whatever it is. I don't see them all doing it when it comes to it. So I'm a big advocate of really don't say you're going to be flexible and don't say you're going to put people first and then not deliver solutions for it. So we have the digital voice. Of course, I'm a massive ambassador, and some of our team, some of them choose to work the school hours
Hmm.
and then they'll change it. So when the children get older, up it goes, and they've got the time. Whatever it is, it means that they can flex on those hours and that time that works for them. I luckily managed to persuade companies during I think there's about 4 companies during my time before I set up the digital voice that did back me, that did believe that I was worth it on 3.5 days. So you've got to go in there and go, I can do this for you. You're going to benefit from it. I promise that you get all my force, energy, knowledge, all of that, and commitment. And my ask is that I do that 3.5 days.
I think that requires a lot of confidence.
Mm,
Which I think it's super powerful. And I think that mentality is really powerful. Where sometimes women struggle potentially.
and that massive, yeah.
Is that one, the confidence in the first place of yes, I can do it, and yes, I'm amazing, and yes, you'll benefit from it. Is that statement, which I think sometimes we find a tiny bit
Hard to do.
harder.
Well, I'm going to give you this, Emma. I was asked once, how do you feel about the glass ceiling? And I said, if there was one, I never saw it. I smashed my way through it. I've never experienced a glass ceiling. I've never felt that being a woman has held me back. I'll be honest, it's a mindset.
Mhm.
Just think, I don't know. I know where I want to go. I
Yeah,
know what I want to do, so I'm going there. Emma, you're the same. You have smashed through every glass ceiling. So I'm like, if you don't, sometimes we hold ourselves back. You know what? Also, there's that, isn't there? That a, a man will apply for a job if they've got about 30% of the qualities. A woman won't
yes.
apply unless they've got 100%. Is that right? Do you know
It
that?
is
That?
something around that, around like 50% of men or like I don't remember the exact
No, I don't.
percentage, but I told my mentee. So I actually my mentee as part of this program. We also built a mentorship program, and I told my mentee the same thing because she was like, "Oh, there's this job," or we went through the jobs, and she's like, "Oh, I don't have everything they're asking for," and
Yeah,
I was like, I know you. I know what you have. It sounds like to me you have at least 80%. What do you mean you don't have it? Like, oh no, I couldn't. Like they were looking for this. Like, yes, you are. Yes, you can. Like, and I
yeah,
told her the same fact. It was like, I apply when there's 50. They ask for 15, like 15 years of experience. I have 10 good enough. Like,
yeah.
what are
Go
they
in and
gonna
show. Just
yeah,
don't let yourself be a barrier to trying it. What's the worst that could happen?
they will
You
reject you?
won't get it, and you have to pick yourself up. But every experience isn't. It's just that. It's an experience, good or bad. It's an experience you learn from. And if you're not in it, you're not. You don't even stand a chance of knowing if you could win it. Fuck's
Exactly.
sake, put your hat in the ring. So I'm a really big fan of going, please don't think there are. I appreciate that there are other barriers that exist, but I really think a mindset change of just seeing that if there is a barrier, I'm going to smash my way through it. And nowadays we are encouraging and force, and there's a lot more support, focus on taking away and removing those barriers. But any that remain, it is your responsibility to have the confidence to go, oh,
So
fly
I
through.
do sometimes see it like the being at least my first I started cybersecurity, and it was very heavy male, and it
Yeah,
was managing factories in China, like Taiwan, and remember working with engineers, and they're all sometimes worth like over twice my age and have kids my age or something of that sort, and taking my and I was talked about or to in not always very nice manners. What
yeah,
it made me is very tough,
yeah,
and therefore I'm extremely stubborn. So that's I think where this kind of help in those respect, and not that sheer determination. Like I'm gonna wear you down,
yeah.
and see the value. Um, but again, I couldn't see. Like I just ignored them. I think I ignored them. So maybe that like they were there. I could see
Just yeah,
them.
just do your thing. Do you? I'll give you an example actually from my experience.
Yeah.
So when I started at the Mirror newspapers, I was looking after a team of already in place heavy journalists. Now these were, as you can imagine, old. I was 29 at the time, and it was a big job. And it was setting up all the digital newspapers for Mirror, yeah, Sunday Mirror, Daily Record. And these journalists were looking at me when I came in, going, "You're managing us. We're double your age. We're long in the tooth. We know journalism. We're tabloid press. We know it." And I was like, "I'm going to win you over." So I must admit, I'll come on to this, but I don't drink anymore. But at the time, I was like, "I'm going to win you over." And the way to win over journalists back in the 1990s and 2000s was to match them for drinks. I shouldn't
Mm.
really say this because it's terrible, but I took them out and I matched them drink for drink on the red wine. And I was like, I'm going to win you over. I'm going to show you that I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to learn from you. But equally, I know digital. You don't know digital. So I'm bringing something, and together we got it. We got it nailed. But you got to trust me that I'm bringing my part and you're bringing yours, and that's going to make us stronger together. So it's about you got to put a bit of what's the word? Bit of wood in the game. No, that's not
Like
the right
flash in the
phrase. But
game.
you've flesh in the game. You've got to
Again,
go.
yeah,
Don't be scared by it. You're not going to win everybody over, but you've
yeah.
certainly got to give it a damn good go. And you've got a responsibility to convince them that you bring something that they need and that you want what they're offering. And I always say to people as well, if I'm an A, every one of my team, I'm going to make them an A star. I'm going to make everybody better than me, more knowledgeable than me. And that's the position. I see managers who don't want their teams to be better than they're an A. Well, I want everyone to be a B or a C, so I'm top dog. Bullshit to that.
Yeah.
It's about trying to get everybody around you to be even better. And they feel really, that's a confidence thing, that they see that you're wanting to shine a light on their stuff and you're acknowledging what they bring. And all your job is to kind of bring that to the fore, shine a light on it. That's the power of managing.
I think that for me, it's also like identifying where everyone is strong. So, like when we say, "Oh,
Yeah.
people that are smarter than you," it's not that they know everything better. Like they have what they bring is they have a knowledge that you don't. They're better at this thing. You have to listen to what they have to say and push them in a way that makes them even bigger and stronger and better and grow
Yeah.
them further. So that intimidate, but that's in like an intimidation thing. Like, and you'll see the same from other people. If you're really confident, okay. So I remember him going to a wedding, his younger sibling wedding, and everyone was telling, like a lot of people were telling him, "Oh, you're not married yet," blah blah blah. Like that's my partner. And I told them when he got back, I was like, well, the people that are worried about you not being married are not very happy in theirs, and the people that didn't tell you anything are probably very happy in theirs and are not particularly worried about your like your situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a general, that's kind of like a random comment, but that's a general thing. If someone is happy and pushing you, they have the confidence. If they're
Yeah.
trying to bring you down or want you to be weaker, is they don't have the confidence maybe in theirs. And
That's on them, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
that's on them to wait to live with themselves, look themselves in the mirror and go, I don't feel that's a good person. I do get frustrated when I don't see women cheerleading each other. Let's get talking about women lifting women. That there are still some women who don't do that. And it's one of my biggest bugbears, I'll be honest. What I
mhm.
do see though is I see far more cheerleading than I see negative trying to push people down. I do feel that more people are trying to elevate and are happy to celebrate and cheerlead.
And I like, and if we don't, if we for some reason, if you like have the reaction of like, oh, like jealousy or like whatever, you're like, you don't have the positive reaction, or for some reason, like maybe ask yourself, where is it coming from? Maybe your
Mm,
own frustration, maybe your own, like you wanted to do something that you're not able to. Instead, if you focus on that, how do I do this? I think that completely shift the focus from the negative part to empowering yourself. And that's also like, we're human. We'll sometimes have a negative reaction. So I'm not going to just say this is all bad. But if you do feel like that, what does it mean? Normally, it means that you're unhappy about something.
yeah,
And I have seen it also the same thing in many aspects. I have literally had similar conversation at home as well of like, if you get this feedback or if someone tells you that or if that's what they feel, this is where it's probably coming from. And
yeah,
if you feel like that, what does it mean? How do you change the narrative for yourself? Um,
absolutely.
and that's part of like walking away from the mindset. And sometimes we've been told that we're supposed to be jealous. We've been told there's only room for a few of us at the top. We've been told this. We've been told that we're supposed to sabotage each other, and that's bullshit.
I think it is. I think it really is. You just, I come back to that phrase, you do you. You can't, it's the worst thing that you can do is often look around you and go, oh my God, they're doing that. They're doing that. Shit, I'm not doing enough. They're better. Just worry about what you can affect, what you can impact. Look after what you can control. There are things outside your control. What other people do is what other people do. That's controlled by them. You can't affect that. You can only look after what you can control and build that out. And I think if you put your energy into that, we all do it. We all look through LinkedIn at our competitors and go, "Oh, that was good. I wish I thought of that idea."
Mhm.
And that's okay. That's okay. You can applaud them and go, "Good job. I wish I'd thought of that." But you then have to take it back to what you're doing, and I think focus more of your energy on improving how you behave and looking inward really, rather than continually comparing or contrasting in whether that be in a jealous way or an insecure way.
I think that if you can applaud someone and then say, That's solid. I
Yeah.
might adopt that.
Yeah.
Whether with whatever, like, and that's learning, right? How do we learn? We see something that's smart. Even here in this conversation, we just said, "I'm going to take that, and this is brilliant. I'm going to
Yeah.
use," because I do that. I mean, I even bought a friend of mine sweater. She brought it from Japan. I looked at it. It's like, I love that. I'm going to order one. Send me the, like, send
I
me the,
know. Isn't it the most, what is it, it's the biggest compliment you can get when somebody copies you or reflects you. And then
exactly.
without blowing smoke up your arse, Emma, there was one of your number eights, the social post, there was a graphic or an animation, and I went back to my social team whenever it was and went, I love that. That's the kind of style we want. It was a real pop. It had lots of pop and fizz about it, which I love. So, that's a good thing. That's not stealing ideas. That's going, this is the standard I want us to try and achieve. So you never should, you shouldn't copy. You just take on board what impact it had on you. I loved it. Can we do something that equally makes me go, I love that, and makes other people look and go, I love that. So we're always striving and looking for new ideas, and you look around you at that, but do it in a positive way. As you say, applaud those people for getting it right first time.
And I think that I'm gonna, talking about lifting women, I'm gonna
Yes,
mention that this is all Nicola. Any design, anything. So Nicola, often from my team, who is our head of design and does an amazing job in building the visual aspects of Number Eight brand. And I
that's
work with
amazing. Well,
her.
credit to Nicola.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and that's a big part of. We've worked together from the beginning. So like we redid a rebrand of Number Eight early on, and the logo and all of that. But she was first a consultant to us, and then she moved in to work for our in house. And she has an amazing journey and an amazing person. And I've had the privilege to be her manager and have her in my team. So one, I wanted to celebrate her, give credit when credit is due, and say how lucky I am.
Go on, Nicola.
Exactly. Um, so I will say that, and that's a lot of our design. What's wrong? Definitely a lot of Nick is there. And I'll just want to say that. And I think that we will finish up with the final question, kind of like summing
Yes,
everything up. The how how community help build your career and how community help kind of power your career
I
and
love this.
put you on this path.
I love this one. I mean, I'm very blessed, as I said, to be part of a big part of Digital Leading Ladies. Excuse me. A big part of Digital Leading Ladies, but I also am part of Bloom. And for 1 year, I was head of PR at Bloom. I love everything that they do. I think it's a really powerful community. The Women in Programmatic Network, I applaud everybody there. Excuse me.
I have the
Um,
same issue right now with my throat.
no, hopefully we'll edit that. Me coughing away. But there's other ones that I've always been part of, like Digital Advertising Women's Network. I was part of that committee. And the biggest one as well is Spill, which is Sober Party Industry Lads and Ladies, which I co-founded a couple of years ago with Michael Smith. And I chose to say no to any more booze 5 years ago. And I realized that what was needed in the industry was just to have a community where, if you were sober curious, mindful drinker, AA, non-drinker, whatever it is, have a community that celebrated that. Because being inclusive is not, when it comes to drinking, we are not great at it in our industry.
Mm.
So what we do is we try and encourage the industry to now be more inclusive of a growing community of people that have turned their back on booze or want to be mindful drinkers. So those kind of communities are really shaping the industry, and they're helping. So if you see somebody I'm a big advocate of not drinking. I love it. My life is better for it. It's not a boring life choice. It's a really uplifting life choice. I loved being a drinker. Now I love not being a drinker. I've just changed the ingredient. I haven't changed the habit. And the community supports on that. So every community that I've been a part of, or I've co-founded, or I've simply been even a passenger on and been blessed to be a part of, has in some way shaped who I am. It does allow you to have that hive mind where you can feel that you're in a safe space and any question can be answered. I love being able to see other people and celebrate their successes. I also like to be there when they need support and help. And I would highly recommend, the biggest advice I have as a parting shot, lean in. The more you lean in, the more you give to your communities, 100%, the more you're going to get out of it.
I love it, and it's a great way to end. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. What a pleasure.
For joining and for your time. And thank you, listeners. Another episode of Women Lifting Women. For the full episode and many more, go to www.womenliftingwomen.io.